I came home from work to find out my wife had cleared out our joint account while she was on her girls' trip, but what I discovered next left her speechless. It all started with what I thought was going to be a peaceful evening. My wife, Rachel, had gone away for a weekend girls' trip to Vegas. She had been planning it for months, and honestly, I was happy for her. She worked hard and deserved a break. We'd been married for almost 6 years, and our relationship, while not perfect, had been solid. I trusted her. We had always been open about our finances, especially after the first year of marriage when we decided to open a joint account. It was a way for us to manage our bills, save for the future, and share the responsibilities that came with our life together. When Rachel left, I didn't think much about it. I was busy with work and other commitments, and she was off enjoying her time with friends. Everything seemed normal. But then, one evening, I got a notification on my phone, unusual activity detected in your account. It wasn't the first time I'd received such an alert, so I didn't think much of it. I quickly opened my banking app and stared at the screen in disbelief. The joint account, our savings, everything we'd worked for, was empty. I had seen the balance just the night before, and now it was reduced to almost nothing. There was one large transaction that caught my eye, an ATM withdrawal of nearly $10,000. I couldn't understand it. I immediately called Rachel. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. I tried texting her, hoping to get some sort of explanation, but the silence was deafening. My heart started to race as a pit formed in my stomach. I couldn't make sense of what was happening. I had always trusted Rachel. We had never had major money issues. But now, I was facing something that felt like a betrayal I wasn't prepared for. My mind raced with questions. Did she need the money? Was this some sort of emergency? I couldn't understand why she wouldn't tell me, especially when we had always been open about everything. I kept checking the transaction history, hoping it was some sort of mistake, but the more I looked, the clearer it became. The money was gone. Not just from the joint account, but from all our savings. There was no sign of any emergency. Everything looked intentional. The more I looked, the more my heart sank. I kept calling Rachel, but she still wouldn't pick up. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The last few months had felt different. Little things had been happening. She was distant, more secretive, and suddenly interested in things we'd never discussed. Was this something that had been building for a while, and I hadn't noticed? The distance between us, the late nights, the time she started spending away from home, it all clicked in that moment. I had to know the truth. I couldn't just sit there and let it slide. I had to confront her. As I made the decision to drive to the airport to meet her when she returned, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just angry about the money. I felt betrayed. I felt like she had taken something from me that wasn't just financial. She had stolen my trust. I couldn't wait any longer. The longer I sat in that empty living room, the more my mind spiraled into darker thoughts. I was beyond angry. I needed answers. I couldn't let Rachel's silence haunt me any longer. With every second that ticked by, the weight of the betrayal became harder to bear. The trust we had built, the years we had spent together, were slipping through my fingers. As I drove to the airport, I thought back to the conversations we'd had over the past few weeks. Nothing out of the ordinary, at least not anything that would raise suspicion. Or so I thought. There had been little signs, yes, but nothing that would have alerted me to the fact that she was capable of something like this. I parked the car and waited, staring at the entrance to the airport. My heart was pounding as I watched the people coming and going, but all I could think about was Rachel. What would she say? Would she lie to my face? Would she try to play it off like it was no big deal? Deep down, I knew that I wasn't just confronting her about money. I was confronting her about our entire relationship. I wanted to know if the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was someone else entirely. When she finally walked through the terminal doors, I could see her immediately. She was smiling, laughing with her friends, as if nothing was wrong. She was so carefree, so full of life, and it almost made me sick. How could she walk through those doors with such a light heart, knowing what she had just done? I took a deep breath, swallowing the bitter taste of betrayal, and approached her. "Rachel," I said, my voice shaky but determined. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a brief moment, there was hesitation in her expression. Then, it was gone, replaced with that familiar smile. "Hey, babe. How's it going?" But I wasn't in the mood for small talk. I cut straight to the point, my voice a little louder than I intended. "How could you do this to us?" I asked, my eyes meeting hers, not breaking contact. She froze, her smile faltering for the briefest of seconds. "What are you talking about?" she asked, trying to brush me off. "Don't play dumb, Rachel. I know you emptied our joint account. I saw the transactions, the withdrawals. The money is gone, our savings, our future, everything we worked for gone. What the hell is going on?" I demanded, my voice rising with every word. Rachel's face paled slightly, but she quickly recovered. She let out a nervous laugh, trying to lighten the mood. "It's not what you think, okay? I needed some money for the trip, and—" I interrupted her, my patience thinning. "Rachel, this isn't about a trip. You cleared out the account while you were on vacation. You took tens of thousands of dollars, and you didn't even think to tell me? You just thought I wouldn't notice?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She was caught off guard. For the first time, I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before: fear. Fear of being found out. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said softly, her voice cracking as if she was searching for a way to justify what she had done. "It's just, I was feeling overwhelmed, and I didn't know what else to do. I felt like everything was falling apart, and I needed to take control. I thought if I had the money, I could fix things." "Fix things?" I repeated, my voice a low growl. "How did you think this would fix anything? Taking our savings and running behind my back? I trusted you, Rachel. I gave you my heart, and you've shattered it for what? A quick escape? A temporary fix? You've ruined everything." Her face flushed with guilt, but she didn't say anything for a long moment. It was as if she was trying to find the right words, but they didn't come. I stood there, staring at her, letting the silence hang between us. My chest was tight with anger, but there was something else beneath it: disappointment. The woman I had trusted more than anyone else had just thrown everything away. And for what? "I didn't want to hurt you," she repeated, but this time it felt less like an apology and more like an excuse. "I just needed something for myself." Something inside me snapped. The last thread of patience I had left broke, and the anger that had been boiling under the surface erupted. "You needed something for yourself? Rachel, I don't know who you are anymore. The woman I married wouldn't have done this." Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw the tears welling up in her eyes. She stepped forward, reaching out to touch my arm. "I'm sorry, Jim. I truly am. I never meant for it to go this far." I shook my head, pulling away from her touch. "Sorry isn't enough, Rachel. Not after everything you've done." At that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about the money. It was about the trust we had lost, the lies we had told each other, and the distance that had grown between us. The damage was done, and no amount of apologies could undo it. Rachel stood there, her hands trembling slightly, as if trying to hold herself together. The air between us was thick with tension, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. It was as if the weight of what she had done was too much to bear, and yet she was still holding on to some semblance of pride, trying to justify her actions. I took a deep breath and let the silence linger. I needed to stay calm. I needed answers. "You still haven't told me everything," I said, my voice quieter now, though still firm. "Why did you really take that money, Rachel? It wasn't just for a trip, was it?" Her eyes flickered away, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in her carefully maintained facade. She looked guilty, but it wasn't enough. I had been patient, but now I needed the truth. She hesitated, then exhaled a shaky breath. I didn't know what else to do. I felt trapped, Jim. Everything was falling apart. You didn't notice, but I was unhappy. I've been unhappy for months, maybe even years. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Unhappy? You never said anything. We've been together 6 years, Rachel, and you never talked to me about it. I didn't know how to. I felt like if I told you, it would just make things worse. You were always so focused on your career, always traveling for work. I just wanted to feel like I mattered, like I had some control over my life. Her voice wavered as she spoke, and I could see the tears starting to well up in her eyes. It was a side of her I had never seen before, vulnerable, afraid, broken. I had never known how deeply she had felt these things. We had been so focused on our own lives that we hadn't stopped to really talk to each other, to really listen. But that doesn't explain why you emptied our account and ran off with the money, I shot back, unable to hide the frustration that was rising within me. You could have come to me, Rachel. We could have worked through this together. We could have fixed things. Instead, you lied to me, you betrayed me, and now you're standing here telling me that I didn't even know how miserable you were? Her face crumpled as the tears finally fell. She wiped them away quickly, but it was too late. The mask had cracked, and I could see the pain in her eyes. I didn't know how to fix it, she whispered, almost to herself. I felt like you were slipping away from me, and I didn't know how to stop it. I thought that if I just did something drastic, something that would force us to face our problems, maybe it would make you notice me again. Maybe it would wake you up. The words were like a knife to my heart. She had done all of this, not out of greed or malice, but out of desperation, out of a need to feel seen, to feel important. I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. So, you thought that stealing from us was going to fix things? I asked, my voice trembling now, the anger starting to fade into something else, something deeper. You thought breaking my trust was the answer? I didn't know what else to do, Jim, she said, her voice breaking. I felt like I was drowning, and I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose everything. It hit me then Rachel wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to hold on to something she was terrified of losing. Her actions, as destructive as they were born from fear, from a place of confusion and pain. But that didn't excuse the betrayal. It didn't make it right. I stood there for a long moment, staring at her, trying to process everything she had just said. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, had been living in a silent prison, drowning in her own unhappiness, while I had been oblivious to her struggles. But her decision to take that money, to lie to me, and to think that betraying me would somehow save us, it shattered everything. I looked at Rachel, the woman who had once been my partner, my confidant, and I realized something. The love we had shared, the trust we had built, was no longer there. It wasn't just the money that was gone, it was the foundation of our relationship. It had been eroded over time by silence, by distance, and now by the choices she had made. Rachel, I said, my voice steady, though the weight of everything was heavy on my chest. I don't know if we can fix this. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. What you've done, it goes beyond the money. You've taken something I can't get back. She looked at me, her eyes full of regret, full of sorrow, but there was nothing she could say to take back the hurt. She had done something irreversible. And in that moment, I knew that our marriage, as we knew it, was over. The next few days were a blur of emotions. After the confrontation at the airport, I didn't know what to do. Rachel had gone back to our house, but the space between us was unbridgeable. I couldn't escape the feelings of betrayal and confusion that plagued my thoughts. How could someone I loved and trusted with everything do this to me? How had I missed the signs of her distress, of her unhappiness? I spent those first few days in a daze, going through the motions of daily life while my heart and mind wrestled with what Rachel had done. The house felt cold and empty, even though she was there. Every corner reminded me of the lies, the secrets, the broken trust. I tried to focus on work to distract myself, but it wasn't easy. Every time my phone buzzed, I would expect it to be Rachel, begging me to understand, to forgive her. But she never called. Instead, there were long, painful silences, and as much as I hated it, I started to feel the weight of what had been broken between us. Days passed before I finally gathered the courage to ask Rachel for a final conversation. I wasn't sure what I expected from it. I wasn't even sure what I wanted. But I knew that if I didn't confront the situation head-on, it would continue to hang over me like a dark cloud. When she agreed to meet, I drove to the park where we used to go on lazy Sunday afternoons. The place was now a symbol of everything that had gone wrong. It was where we had spent hours talking, laughing, making plans for our future. Now, it felt like a graveyard of our lost dreams. She arrived a few minutes after me, her face pale and drawn. There was no smile this time, no warmth in her eyes, just the same guilt and regret that had followed her everywhere since the confrontation. She sat down beside me, her hands nervously twisting together. "Jim, I don't know what to say anymore," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know what I did was unforgivable, and I don't expect you to ever trust me again. But I need you to understand I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to save something I didn't even know how to fix." I stayed silent, not knowing what to say to that. She was right in a way. Her actions had been born out of desperation, but they had caused irreparable damage. "I've spent the past few days thinking about everything," I finally said, my voice tight, "about the trust we built, the life we had. And I realize now that it's not just the money that hurts, it's the betrayal of everything I believed in. You were my partner, Rachel. And now I don't even know who you are anymore." She closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know. I've ruined everything. I never meant for it to go this far. I couldn't handle everything piling up. The stress, the feeling of losing control. I thought if I just took a step back, if I could do something for myself, maybe I would feel better. But it didn't work, did it?" I responded, my voice flat. "You didn't fix anything. You just made everything worse. And now we're here staring at the ruins of our marriage." Rachel's shoulders shook with quiet sobs, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. I couldn't let the emotional connection take hold again, not after everything that had happened. As much as I had loved her, the damage she had done to me, to us, was too great. It was too much to repair. "We can't go back, Rachel," I said, my voice firm this time. "What you did, what you chose to do, has broken something inside me. I don't think I can ever trust you again, and without that, we don't have a future." She didn't argue. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She simply nodded, the weight of her actions finally sinking in. There was no point in pretending that things could go back to the way they were. The woman I had once known and loved was gone, and in her place was someone unrecognizable, a stranger who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. "I'm sorry, Jim," Rachel said, her voice barely audible now. "I really am. I never meant to destroy everything." But the words felt empty now, just as they had when she first said them. I had heard the apology, but it didn't change the fact that she had taken something from me that I could never get back. The trust, the bond we had built, had been shattered beyond repair. "I know," I said, standing up and turning to leave. "I know." I didn't look back as I walked away. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but I had made my decision. I couldn't keep living in the past, constantly looking back at what had been lost. It was time to move forward, to reclaim the life that had been taken from me not just financially, but emotionally. The road ahead would be long, and it would take time, but I knew one thing for certain: I would never let Rachel's betrayal define me. I would rebuild my life, piece by piece, and I would find peace again, even if it meant doing it alone. The weeks that followed were filled with uncertainty. I had done my best to move on, but the scars of betrayal were still fresh. There were moments when I thought about reaching out to Rachel, wondering if things could somehow be fixed, if we could rebuild what we had lost. But those moments were fleeting. As the truth slowly sunk deeper into my mind, our relationship was gone, and nothing would ever bring it back. I spent more time with my friends, reconnecting with the people who had supported me through the darkest days of my life. They'd always been there, but I had distanced myself over the years, caught up in the routine of marriage and the pursuit of career goals. Now, with everything I had lost, I realized just how important those bonds were. They reminded me that, despite everything that had happened, I wasn't alone. My work became my focus. It was my escape, my way of regaining some control over the life that had spiraled out of my hands. I threw myself into projects, built relationships, and slowly started to feel like myself again. But there was still a lingering emptiness, a hole where Rachel's presence once was. Then, one evening, I sat alone in the living room, staring out the window, reflecting on everything that had happened. The pain was still there, but it wasn't as sharp. It wasn't all-consuming. The anger had dissipated, replaced by a quiet sense of resignation. I had been through something terrible, but I had survived. I knew it was time to let go for good. I had already made the decision to move forward with my life, and it was time to take the final step. I didn't need Rachel's apology anymore. I didn't need the closure she had never given me. What I needed was peace, and that could only come from accepting what had happened and moving on with strength, not bitterness. I signed the papers for the divorce, and when they came in the mail, I took a deep breath before signing my name. This was it. The final chapter of our story. It wasn't what I had imagined for us, but it was the reality I had to face. I wasn't the same man I was when we met, and I would never be that man again. But that didn't mean I couldn't create a new future for myself. As I closed the folder and filed the papers away, I realized that I had learned something valuable through all of this. I had learned that, no matter how hard life gets, I have the power to reclaim my happiness. I had the strength to move on, to build something better, and to trust again, maybe not others, but myself. If you've been through betrayal, heartbreak, or loss, know this: you don't have to face it alone. No matter how hard things get, you have the strength within you to rebuild and start over. If you've enjoyed this story of resilience and growth, subscribe to stay updated with more powerful stories like this one. Don't miss the next chapter in this journey, because sometimes the greatest revenge is finding peace within yourself. Thanks for watching, and remember, the story doesn't end here. Your journey is just beginning.